Hi, I'm John, and I'm from ReMuse. I'm going to be giving you a full overview of the features of ReMuse Kit. So, let's dive in. You join me on the front page of ReMuse Kit. This is basically the whole app, to be honest. There's not a lot of complexity to it, but there's a lot of power to it. So, effectively, the different things you see when you arrive are the title ReMuse Kit and the version number at the top. You've got your registration details on the bottom in the middle. And then you've got a few different buttons and options you can play with. So the first thing you want to do when you're starting is import some files. So I'm going to import this hi-hat file I've got, which is just a WAV. You can import that, and then it'll populate into the center area, which is basically your file drop-off. The file drop-off can be accessed either via the import files button that I used just then, or via dragging and dropping from your Explorer windows. The file itself lists the file name of what you're importing, so hat.wav is what I imported. ReMuse Kit tries to intelligently guess the track type, so it's worked out that I was putting in a hi-hat and found out that should actually be cymbals, and your options are kick, snare, toms, cymbals, and image mic. So it's guessed that I put in a cymbal file, and it tells me what it's going to try and call the file as an output, which is hat. I can double click and edit this to be called hat2 or whatever I want. If I don't want to process this file, if I made a mistake in importing the wrong one or too many files, I can hit the little trash can icon on the right hand side to remove that file. The feature on the right hand side is the wet dry slider. So wet meaning 100% new file, and dry meaning 100% original file. Obviously you wouldn't really need to do that, there's no point. But from the wet file, if you go down to, let's say, 70%, what it would do is blend a fully separated audio file in 70% and 30% of the original audio file you had. This just gives producers flexibility to get a feel for how they wish to use the app. The other main feature you can see on this front page is this toggle in the bottom left. This toggle switches between local processing and cloud processing. ReMuse Kit processes locally as an initial selection, and what this does is it will use your computer's hardware to try and separate the audio files locally. It doesn't require an internet connection to do this, and the speed of processing will be dependent on your hardware. If you have high-end hardware, this may well be the best option for you. If your hardware is not particularly good and you have a very strong internet connection, you may prefer to toggle to the cloud processing option. This will upload your files to a cloud storage location. It will process the files and then re-download those files to your machine. So if you have a very fast internet connection and not a great machine, this is a really good option for you. I tend to leave it in a local processing mode because I have a machine that does a fairly good job. If I dive into the settings menu in the top left, I'll see the different preferences I have selected. So the top button is where you select your output directory for where your audio files are going to go when they've been processed, and then that's displayed below in the current directory path. You can also edit that directory path by typing directly into that box. The three main settings you have as options beneath are merge bleed. If you unselect the merge bleed option, every one of the files you import to ReMuse Kit at the same time will have its own bleed file that's produced. If you select the merge bleed function, every single bleed that's been removed from all of the files imported to ReMuse Kit for that single time you hit go will be merged into one bleed file. The pre-isolate stems before splitting selection toggle is for removing other instruments than drums before you start trying to separate the drum elements. This is really useful for live mixes where you have lots of bleed from, let's say, bass or vocals coming through the image mics for your kit, and you need to remove that before using ReMuse Kit in its kind of core function. So if you remove all the other instruments, it will then automatically go on and process the drum separation or drum debleeding that you wanted after removing the other instruments. It takes longer, obviously, because it's doing much more processing, so I would deselect this if you don't have any other instruments present, and only use it if you do. Generate track names automatically just means that you can choose what the track name output is without it trying to suggest something for you, but there's no real harm in leaving this on, and then you can edit or modify as you wish. If I jump back to the main window, I've got some settings selected here, so I'm processing locally. You saw the settings that were on the preferences menu, and I'm leaving it 100% wet, and then I would just hit go, and another window pops over the top to say that it's processing the audio. It tells me which stage of the process this is at, so it's removing other instruments from Hat 2. In this case, Hat 2 doesn't have any other instruments, so it's kind of a moot point. But it tries to do that anyway, and it won't find anything. So what it'll do is, when it's finished that, move automatically on to the next stage, which is to separate out the hat from the rest of the drum kit. Now the file has been processed once to remove any instruments that are not drums. The software has started moving on to separating the hi-hats from the rest of the drum kit elements themselves. So this takes tens of seconds on a decent machine like mine. So it saves the process files into your output directory. You can click show output directory to see where it lands, or you can just quit straight out of that. And that's basically it. That's ReMuse Kit. It's simple, it's clean, it's easy, and you can use it to really improve your speed of your mixes. You can use it to improve your creativity and where you can place mics, because you know you can remove the things you don't want from the output. So it's a producer's tool. It's something that should really help you in your day-to-day life. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.